The day King Obi took a second wife, his first wife Ada did not cry. She smiled. And that smile, quiet, cold, and knowing, frightened every woman in the palace more than any tears ever could. King Obi was not just any man. In the town of Umueze, a growing community sitting at the edge of a city where old tradition met new concrete roads and generator noise, Obi was the man. His palace was the biggest building on the street. 3 floors. Red roof. 2 black iron gates that clanged shut every night like the jaws of something powerful. He drove a black jeep. Wore a red cap on Sundays. And when he walked into a room, every conversation stopped. People called him Ego, which means king, even though the government didn't give him a certificate. The community gave him something better. They gave him fear and respect. And in Umueze, those 2 things were worth more than any paper. He had built the community hall. He had settled land disputes that courts could not touch. He had funded 12 boys through university. He was, to everyone watching, a perfect man. But Ada knew better. Ada had been married to Obi for 11 years. 11 years of cooking, praying, standing by his side at every ceremony, smiling for every photograph. 11 years of watching her womb stay silent while the whole community whispered behind her wrapper. She is empty. A king needs an heir. It is a curse. She heard everything. She was not deaf. She just refused to break. Obi never said the words to her face. He was too proud for that. But she saw it in his eyes, the slow dying of something that used to burn for her. And the day he sat her down in the parlor and said, "Ada, I have to bring in another woman," she simply nodded. She did not beg. She did not scream. She packed the guest room herself, ironed the new curtains, and placed fresh flowers on the windowsill. Because Ada had a plan. And plans don't need tears. The second wife's name was Ngozi, 26 years old. Full of laughter, loud earrings, and a stomach that got round within 3 months of entering that palace. The whole of Umueze celebrated. Old women danced in the compound. Men poured drinks. Obi sat in his big chair and received congratulations like a man who had finally corrected a long mistake. He did not notice that Ada served every guest personally that night, refilling glasses, laughing at jokes, making sure everyone was comfortable. She was invisible in the best possible way. And invisible people see everything. Ngozi gave birth to a boy. Then another. Then a girl. The palace filled with noise, crying babies, school bags, children running across the tiled floor. Life poured in through every corner. And Ada, the quiet woman, the barren one, the forgotten first wife, remained. She did not leave. Everyone expected her to leave. Her mother begged her to leave. Her younger sister came from Lagos and sat in the kitchen crying on her behalf. But Ada looked at her sister and said 5 words that nobody in that family ever forgot. "I'm not done yet." Years passed. The children of Ngozi grew tall and loud and certain of their place in the world. The firstborn, Mark, was especially bold. He drove his father's second car before he was even 20. He spoke to elders with a kind of careless confidence that made old men uncomfortable. He wore his father's name like a trophy. But even Mark, with all his boldness, was careful around Ada. Because Ada had a way of looking at you, calm, unhurried, that made you feel like she already knew your ending before you had lived it. Then came the night everything changed. It was a Thursday. Rain was hammering the zinc roof of the compound. Obi had just returned from a community meeting, his red cap wet, his mood quiet. Ngozi was upstairs with the children. The generator hummed. Ada knocked on his study door. He looked up, surprised. She almost never entered his study at night. She placed a brown envelope on his table. He stared at it. "What is this?" he asked. "Open it," she said. Calm. No expression. He opened it slowly. Inside were papers. Medical papers. Lab results. Old ones, dated 9 years back, and new ones from 2 months ago. He read. His hands began to shake. Because those papers didn't say Ada was barren. Those papers said he was. The room went cold. 9 years ago, Ada had done a private fertility test. The doctor, a quiet man in a clinic far from Umueze, had told her the truth. That she was perfectly fine. That the problem was with her husband. She had sat with that truth for 9 years. She had watched him take another wife. Watched another woman receive his name, his pride, his children. She had said nothing. Why? Obi whispered. His voice broke on that one word in a way it had never broken in any community meeting, any dispute, any moment of public power. Ada pulled the chair across from him and sat down slowly. Because I wanted you to feel what it means, she said, to carry a truth that nobody believes. The rain outside got heavier. Somewhere upstairs, one of Ngozi's children laughed at something on a phone. And King Obi, the man who had never cried in public, the man the whole of Umueze called Igu, dropped his face into his hands. Stay with me. Because what happens next will change everything you think you know about this family. And the secret Ada has been protecting is far bigger than even this. Why? Obi whispered. His voice broke on that one word in a way it had never broken in any community meeting, any dispute, any moment of public power. Ada pulled the chair across from him and sat down slowly. Because I wanted you to feel what it means, she said, to carry a truth that nobody believes. The rain outside got heavier. Somewhere upstairs, one of Ngozi's children laughed at something on a phone. And King Obi, the man who had never cried in public, the man the whole of Umueze called Igu, dropped his face into his hands. Stay with me. Because what happens next will change everything you think you know about this family. And the secret Ada has been protecting is far bigger than even this. By morning, Obi had not slept. He sat in that study until the generator went off and the room turned dark. He sat until the first cock crowed outside and the smell of Ngozi's morning cooking drifted under the door. He sat with those papers in his hand like a man holding evidence of his own crime. Because that is exactly what it was. He had judged Ada. In front of her family. In front of his community. He had replaced her, reduced her, treated her barrenness like a character flaw, and the whole time, the barrenness was his. He was the empty one. And she had known. But here is the part the story has not told you yet. The part that will make your jaw drop. Those children, Mark, the second boy Felix, and the little girl Amora, those 3 loud, beautiful, palace-raised children of Ngozi. Ada knew something about them too. 3 weeks after the envelope night, Obi called a private meeting. Just himself, Ada, and Ngozi. No elders. No family. The 3 of them sat in the parlor with the curtains drawn like people about to open a wound. Ngozi walked inconfident. She had no idea what was coming. She sat down, crossed her legs, looked between the 2 of them. She had spent years treating Ada like furniture, polite enough on the surface, invisible in every real way. Obi, she said lightly, what is this about? Obi didn't answer. He looked at Ada. And Ada placed a second envelope on the table. Ngozi's eyes dropped to it. What is that? She asked. Slower this time. Open it, Ada said. The same 2 words. The same calm voice. Like she had rehearsed this moment 1,000 times in her bedroom mirror, because she had. Ngozi opened the envelope. Inside were photographs. And a letter. And a name. The name of a man called Raymond. Raymond was a contractor. Tall, easy-laughing, a man who had done electrical work in the palace 3 years before Ngozi got pregnant with Mark. He had come back twice more, once when the borehole was being fixed, once for reasons nobody could remember clearly. But Ada remembered. She had seen things. Small things that polite people look away from. A hand that touched a shoulder too long. A door that closed too quietly. A face that smiled a second too late. Ada had said nothing. She had watched and filed it away, and waited, the way only a woman who has decided to be patient can wait. The photographs were not scandalous. They were simply specific. Raymond's car parked 2 streets away. A restaurant receipt in a name that wasn't Obi's. A letter that Ngozi had written and never sent, found folded inside an old handbag Ada had helped pack during a house rearrangement. The letter was not explicit. But it was enough. It said, I cannot keep doing this. The baby changes everything. Ngozi stood up so fast her chair scraped the tiles. You went through my things. Sit down, Obi said. It was the quietest he had ever spoken. No thunder, no authority. Just a man at the bottom of something, trying not to drown. Ngozi Saturday. The three of them looked at each other across that parlor. 11 years of marriage, 6 years of rivalry, and one enormous lie sitting in the middle of the table like a loaded gun that nobody wanted to pick up. Is Mark mine? Obi asked. Ngozi's eyes filled. That was answer enough. The walls of that palace, 3 floors, red roof, black iron gates, held a silence that night that no generator could cut through. Obi walked out of the parlor and went upstairs. He stood at the door of the children's room and watched them sleep. Mark on his back, arms spread wide, completely unaware. Felix curled on his side. Little Amora with her mouth slightly open, one leg hanging off the mattress. 3 children. Innocent. Perfect. Beautiful. Not one drop of it his fault. He stood there for a long time. Then he went back downstairs, sat across from Ada, and said the sentence that surprised even her. I am sorry. Not to Ngozi. To Ada. Now here is where most stories would end. The villain punished, the good woman vindicated, the king humbled. Credits roll. Everyone claps. But real life, real Umui's life, does not wrap up that cleanly. Because the next morning, Ngozi was still in that house. Those children were still in that house. And Ada, who had won everything she set out to win, woke up and felt something she did not expect. Empty. Not bitter empty. Not angry empty. Just hollow. Like a woman who had carried a heavy load for so long that when she finally put it down, her arms did not know what to do with themselves. She sat in her kitchen and made tea. Outside she could hear Felix asking where his school shoes were. Amora was arguing about something. The house was full of its usual noise. And Ada thought, these children did not choose their mother's choices. These children did not ask to be born into this. She thought about what it would mean to blow this family apart. To take this to the community. To let Umuis see their ego exposed. To watch Ngozi dragged through the shame she had spent years preparing for her. She could do it. She had every weapon. But something in her chest said, to what end? She called her sister that evening. Her sister, the one who had cried in the kitchen years ago, picked up on the first ring. Ada, I heard you finally confronted him. Are you okay? What happened? Did he beg? What did Ngozi say? Are you leaving? You should leave. Come to Lagos. I have a room. Calm down, Ada said. How can I calm down? This man ruined 11 years of your life. He did, Ada said simply. And I let him. Because I thought winning meant making him lose. Silence on the phone. But I don't want to win like that anymore, Ada said. I want to build something. Not burn something down. Her sister was quiet for a long time. Then, what does that mean? Ada looked out the window of her kitchen. The black iron gate. The community road beyond it. Old women selling in the evening light. Children chasing each other past the gutter. It means I'm not leaving, Ada said. But I'm not staying as a victim either. I'm staying as the woman who runs this house. And Obi knows that now. He knows who he is without me. And so do I. 3 months later, things in that palace had shifted in ways nobody outside could fully see. Ngozi was quieter. Not defeated, just smaller. The truth had taken something from her confidence that no apology could return. She stayed. The children stayed. Life continued. But the balance of that house had changed completely. It was Ada who now sat beside Obi at community meetings. Ada whose opinion he asked before making decisions. Ada who the elders greeted first when they came to the palace. Not because Obi had declared it. Because Ada had claimed it. And a woman who claims her space with that kind of quiet certainty is impossible to move. There is one final thing. A thing that happened 6 months after the envelope night that nobody in Umuis ever fully understood. Ada went back to that doctor. The quiet one far from town. She sat across from him and said she wanted to try one more thing. A procedure. New. Expensive. The kind of thing people in their community didn't talk about. The doctor looked at her and asked, Are you sure? At your age, with everything. Doctor, Ada said, I have waited 11 years. I have more patience than you have seen in any patient in your career. Just tell me if it is possible." He told her it was possible. 8 months later, Ada gave birth. A girl. They named her Grace. The day Grace was brought into that palace, something ancient shifted in the air of Umueze. People came from 3 streets away to see. Old women who had whispered she is empty now pressed their faces at the gate with eyes wide open. The same mouths that had cursed her now called her name with something close to awe. Obi held that baby girl and did not try to hide that he was crying. For the first time in his life, the king cried in public. And not one person, not one elder, not one community man, said a word against it. Because sometimes, the sight of a man finally becoming human is more powerful than any throne he has ever sat on. Mark, Ngozi's firstborn, the bold one, the one who drove his father's car before he was 20, came and stood beside Ada's bed that evening. He was 17 now. He had grown into something more thoughtful than his earlier years had promised. He looked at the baby. Then he looked at Ada. "Mama Ada," he said, the name he had always called her, even when his own mother told him to keep his distance. "She's beautiful." Ada looked at him. This boy who carried another man's blood but had grown up in her space, eaten food she cooked, been corrected by her voice 100 times. "Take care of your sisters," she said. Both of them. The one in the bed beside her, and the one down the hall who was Ngozi's. A man who protects women is worth more than a man who rules them. Mark nodded slowly. Like he was being handed something he would carry the rest of his life. King Obi never told the community what those envelopes contained. He never exposed Ngozi. He never announced his own truth. He simply changed. Quietly, without ceremony. The way real change always happens. He became less loud. More present. He started sitting with his children instead of just providing for them. He started looking Ada in the eye when they spoke, really looking, the way he had when they were young and the world had not yet taught him that power was more important than people. The community still called him Igu. But the real king in that house, the one who had held the truth when it would have broken anyone else, the one who had chosen grace over revenge, life over destruction, was a woman who had smiled the day her husband married someone else. Because she already knew. She had always known. And she had simply waited for the world to catch up.